All right, everybody, we're back to the bullpen. That's right. Tonight, we are going to talk about the Astros. We're going to look at the horses in the barn, who we think is going to make a move into the starting rotation for this year. Also, some players, some injury reports, a couple new signings the Astros have made. Look, there's some things to talk about. So Mike's here with me. Let's get started right now.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
That's right, and welcome back into another live edition of Back to the Bullpen. We inch closer and closer every day to another baseball season. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse. You know where to find me. Just go on anywhere social media. Type in H-Town Wheelhouse. You can find me here at Back to the Bullpen, the show, on YouTube, on Instagram, on iHeartRadio. You can find us on Spotify, on Apple. And my man next to me, my compadre, the best podcast duo partner in the world, Mike Stanton. Yeah. I mean,
you're
Mike,
setting the bar high.
You got the credentials, Mike. Tell us where we can find you, sir.
Yeah, there's only one place, and that's going to be on X, formerly known as Twitter, and that's Mike Stanton 29.
That's right. The old 2-9er.
Don't
call him old, just call him the 2-9er, right? Man, Mike. So look, I really don't think that the Astros are going to do a whole lot more this offseason. I mean, we still have time technically. Sure. It's not February yet. Pitchers and catchers aren't reporting yet. I don't really see any movement with Ryan Presley. It doesn't appear that there's a lot of suitors to take over his $14 million contract. And, you know, for Presley, I don't know. And I don't know if pitchers ever tell other pitchers secrets. And of course, I know you don't talk to Ryan Presley on the daily, but I'm just wondering how much maybe last year, him going from closer to setup man, if that's affected, or if it's just the straight up $14 million that's affected his market. Because I think if they were able to move him, you would see another semi-significant move to get another outfield bat. I mean, can we say they're done, or is it still, again, too early because we do still have, 6 to 8 weeks before it happens, before we start reporting?
They're not done. I mean,
Okay.
now there may not be any big moves left. I would be surprised if there was a big move left. But, moves in the bullpen, that's something that always gets pushed to the back end of, of free agency and of the offseason. So I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of moves left, but I would be surprised if they didn't. I mean, you got to remember, it's only January 8th. I mean, there's still a long time left in this offseason. And, we haven't heard Dana Brown say, okay, this team is done. We're where we want to be. You can always get better. So there's never going to be a situation that you're looking that you're saying that there's just no way we're going to make a move. I mean, they may be smaller moves. They may be, just spring training invite type moves, trying to catch lightning in a bottle. As far as Presley is concerned, you said you asked if it was, the contract or was it how he pitched last year? Well, it's really both because, you have to justify the contract and, we'll have to wait and see if they're able to do. I think that it's probably still on the table. I'm sure Dana's still making phone calls and or taking phone calls, whatever. We'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, that's a problem because he was okay last year, but I don't think he was $14 million worth last year. And I think that's why he hasn't been moved already. If this guy, stepped into the setup role and just dealt for Josh Hader with Josh Hader as the closer, they probably would have already they already moved him. It may be a situation that it has to get a little bit complicated. They have to get a little bit creative. They have to, eat a little bit of money or take some money back from a player that's coming the other way, whatever it is. When Mookie Betts went from Boston to the Dodgers, the way they set that deal up, the Dodgers had to take David Price.
Yeah,
And his
I
salary.
remember that.
So that was, that's the kind of thing. Now, we're not talking about a Mookie Betts type player,
Right.
but we're still talking about a more than serviceable reliever in Ryan Presley. So I think that, there could be a deal out there, but I also think that Dana's not going to give him away just simply because you're already paying him $14 million. The money is already gone. You've already agreed to terms.
Exactly.
That money is gone. So I think that if the right deal isn't on the board, then he stays a Houston Astro and becomes hopefully becomes a weapon out of the bullpen that he was a couple of years ago.
Exactly. And, talking about weapons, I think where the Astros have a pretty strong showing going into this new season in 2025 is the rotation. I think it's probably the most solid or the most stable portion. If you because you talk about the lack of Kyle Tucker in the outfield, you talk about the lack of Alex Bregman in the infield. Even though you signed Paredes and you signed Walker, still missing two guys, and especially one guy that's been there the whole time.
Right.
Catching position's pretty solid. Relief pitching can probably use a little bit of help, but the starting pitching, okay. And so the projected starters right now, I would say personally, I'm Framber Valdez is my number one.
Right.
Okay? I put Hunter Brown number 2. Now, I have a question about this. And I know like in the long run, I've been told by, I think you and some other people like former players, it's not necessarily about where you are in the rotation. I mean, I know people say he's a 1 or a 2 or he's a 4 or 5. He's a back end guy, but I have Ronel Blanco. Actually, I put Spencer Arrighetti, Ronel Blanco, and then I bring in Hayden Wesneski, who was just signed. And those would be my 5 starters going in. Because, and we'll get to injury reports in a second, I don't see Garcia being ready for opening day or even Lance McCullers.
Yeah. I think that, one of the things that we always have to guard against, and when I say we, I mean people in the industry, something right. Dana Brown, we won't hear Dana Brown tell everyone, that the starting rotation is great, that we have, we've got so much depth, because that's where he went last year. We heard it coming out of spring training. We heard it in spring training, coming out of spring training. And then in 2 days, they lose 60% of their rotation.
True.
And so as soon as you think you have enough pitching, you don't. And so I think that they'll be a little bit more guarded with their comments, but I think they're in a pretty good spot. There's a couple things that do kind of intrigue me and do have me, maybe not as quite as, I don't want to say optimistic, but something that I'm going to keep an eye on. How many different guys pitched more innings last year than they ever have in their career? Well, kind of all of them except for Framber.
That's true. That's excellent point.
And they made big innings jumps. So that's something that they're going to have to keep an eye on. Right. The other side of this is, we kind of got spoiled by Spencer Arrighetti. Spencer came up and, first couple innings looked like a world beater, then gave up a 7 spot. And then he did that for the next couple starts. And then all of a sudden he started figuring it out at the big league level. And that's a tough place for the maturation process to really get extended. And I think that there have been teams in the past that have kind of caught that lightning in the bottle, bringing up a young guy and, maybe he's not very good, or he comes up and he's great. And then you just expect everybody to do that. Well, that's not really how it works. That's a situation that's unique to what happened with Spencer. And by the way, now there's going to be expectations on Spencer going into the season. So that has something to do with it also. So, yes, they have, quality arms. They have guys that now have a little bit of a track record. But, you still go in guarded just simply because you'd have no idea what kind of injuries or what's going to happen going forward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, last year Fromber threw 176 and 1/3 inning. Hunter Brown, it's hard to remember this, but he was 0-4 to start the season.
0-4 with a just shy of a 10
Yeah.
ERA.
And I remember the second he hit that 0-4 mark, everybody's like, see,
Send him down. Yep.
I told you he's not Justin Verlander. I told you he's not. I'm like, hold on. Like, y'all suddenly had this epiphany after 4 games,
Right.
really?
Right.
Like it's, and look, I can't say that as a fan, I haven't done the same thing, have the same, and I think we get emotionally attached to our teams.
Sure we do.
And when they're doing bad, it makes us feel bad,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, honey, why are you in a bad mood? Oh, I see the box score kind of thing, and so my question to you is, so Ronel Blanco comes out 13-6, throws a no-hitter, his first start in April. Now, realistically, Astros fans, now I think the next game he went in and he took a no-hitter until like the 5th or 6th. And so everyone's like, okay, Fromber hates giving up hits, right? But what kind of expectations do you think the fans can have for him this year? Will someone like that not necessarily regress, but will water find its level? Or is this a guy that's a big body guy that can probably, and of course I'm asking you to predict the future,
sure,
but could he be the type of pitcher where he just uses this? He's working hard in the offseason right now. I've talked to him a couple times here and there, and he likes his body of work now. Where do you see Ronel this next year?
I think when you look at what he did last year, he got off to the incredible start. He got snubbed at the All-Star break because he absolutely should have been an All-Star. But I think when you see what he did in the second half, I think that's a realistic expectation.
Okay.
I think if you have Ronel Blanco, the way he pitched last year, if you have him in your 3 to maybe even 4 hole, I think your rotation's in pretty good shape. The workload for Ronel, I'm not really worried that much about, just simply because you're not talking about a pitcher that's 24 years old. He threw more innings last year than he ever has, but he's got his man muscles now. He's
not developing, he's not growing.
Right,
he's not, right.
And I think that, and with that, I think that you're not really as light-handed with him. You go ahead, if he's pitching well, you go ahead and let him pitch. You do what you let him go do his thing. And so I think that, with him, you're not really that as concerned with the innings total. It's just going to be a matter of, can he get that change up where he needs to get it to? And, at the end of the season last year, they had to kind of back off of him, gave him some time off, getting out of the rotation. So, I think but if you see, the body of work, he absolutely deserves to be in the rotation. And I think he will be in the rotation. But to me, if he's 3, probably 4 would be the place that I would have him penciled in. But again, you have the same questions about Spencer Arrighetti because, he's got bigger stuff. He's got a lot better swing and miss stuff. But and we saw him at his best many times. But we also saw him pitch poorly, and it's going to be a sophomore campaign, which means the league is going to have a track record against him, and there's definitely going to be adjustments going forward.
Exactly. And I think, Mike, one of the things that works in his favor is, I believe a lot of the reason why you see so many injuries in Major League Baseball with pitchers is, we've talked about it, the spin rate, the focus on velocity. He's not a heavy-handed thrower. He throws between 80 and 90. 93.4 was his average four-seam fastball, which is actually a mile per hour less than what it was in 23. He actually threw his slider 2 miles an hour less this last year and stayed right at the same with his changeup and his curveball. So those didn't change. So that to me tells me, okay, Ronel's not trying to go out there and outgas the batter. Like, he is going to go out there. He's going to make his pitches. And one of the things I notice about him is mentally, he seems to stay in line. Like he doesn't seem to step out very much. I mean, when a pitcher's out of rhythm, when you're off, right? I mean, you can, when that ball comes out of your hand, you're like, okay, this is not feeling right.
Right.
But to me, he seems like he's more consistent. Now, Hayden Wesneski, okay. Local kid, love the story, coming back home in the Kyle Tucker trade. It's funny, but he wasn't the quote unquote headlining. So there's really not a ton of pressure for him to perform. Do you think with a rotation like this, with a veteran like Fromber, with a guy like Hunter, with a kid like, the pitchers he has, do you think Hayden fits in well with this group because they're not ultra veteran, but they're not super young either?
Well, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's hard to sit on the outside and say, yeah, he's a great fit, or yeah, he's got no business being in the rotation at all, because you really don't know. The dude's only had 22 big league starts. He's mostly been a reliever. And, the ERA is just shy of 4, which is okay. I mean, it's not great, but I think expectations are where you get in trouble. I mean, if you expect him to come in and, him to be a dude and just go out there and shove the whole time, I think that you're probably going to fall short of that. You're not going to be happy. But, if you just let him develop, it's kind of like, I don't want to say what the same as Ronell, but if you just let it see what he is, go out there and let him, get his feet wet, let him figure out what's going on in the American League, let him, let him get a few outings in well, it's not Minute Maid anymore, but here in Houston, was it Dakin
Park? Yeah,
Dakin Park. Yeah, the
ice box. And I'm
going to screw that up many, many, many times.
Well, I tell you this, I've heard that the Astros, from what I've been told from a player, someone close to a player on the team, said that the team can't use Dakin doesn't want them using the term icebox. There's something with like,
they don't want the slang.
Well, there's something legally with it. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's trademarked, but so they can't use it. I think the fans will use it. And I think the fans will still call it the juice box, or we can call it the frozen juice box. But we have guys that are on the outside looking in that could contribute. And Ryan Gusto, Colton Gordon, AJ Blueball. Those are guys that, Mike, I think at the end of the day, if you need to rest some guys, unfortunately, things happen. If a guy gets injured, wakes up with a sore neck or whatever,
right?
These are guys that you could turn to. Gusto was supposed to make his major league debut on the last game of the season until they canceled it. Yeah. So these are guys that could touch the major leagues maybe by early mid-season.
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, Brett, they will. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the Astros, they did have a lot of injuries. There was the turnstile was turning, from the minor leagues to get up to Houston, because they had 12 different pitchers start in the starting rotations last year, start a game. That's a touch high. It's not crazy high, but it just shows that they did have a lot of injuries, and they needed pitchers to come up. I don't want to say it never happens, but very, very rarely does a team go through a season. I don't think it's happened in quite a while. A team go through a season with only, 5 or 6 starters. It's usually, 8. I mean, and this is healthy teams, 8, 9 starters, something like that. And 12 is a little bit on the higher side.
Right.
So those guys will probably get starts as long as they're healthy pitching in the minor leagues, and especially if they're pitching well in the minor leagues. There will probably be times you'll see them here in Houston. So, it's just one of those situations that, you just don't have 5 starters anymore, and you run those dudes out there every 5 days, and everything's great all the way through the season.
Exactly. And only time will tell who gets those positions. You have a guy like Logan Van Way. I don't know if I've mentioned him to you before, but this like 25, 26-year-old Mike, this dude can throw gas. This dude's a stud, and I think he's going to come up and give you some at least middle relief innings. Could be a really big contributor. I think he could be one of the surprises of the season. Someone was asking me in the comments, what is Wesneski's best pitch? Well, his most frequent pitches are his sweeper and his four-seamer.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, from what people have told me, I actually know some people that went to high school with him and was asking him, they're like, dude, he's got a nasty sweeper. Like he's
Yeah,
got
that's his main out pitch. That's
right.
that's the pitch that you go, okay, that very well could be above average. And that's really what you're looking for. Now, if you're going to be a starter in the big leagues, unless you're just Christian Javier when he was at his heyday before the injury, you need 3 pitches. At least 3 pitches, but really 3 pitches. You need 3 good pitches that you can go to. So, whether it's a changeup or a split or whatever it may be,
because
this is going to have to be something else if he's going to be in the rotation.
Yeah. See, he uses a sweeper 41%, four seam 36, and it drops all the way down to 11% for the sinker. Yeah. So
but that's still a fastball. You can say a sinker is a 2-seam fastball that has vertical movement. It's still a fastball. So he would need a third pitch. He would need some kind of off-speed pitch, preferably one that goes the opposite direction. For a right-handed pitcher, the sweeper, slider, it's a slider. It has both horizontal and vertical break that goes from the pitcher's right to left, away from a right-hander.
Yeah.
Changeup goes the opposite. It goes more into a right-hander for a right-handed pitcher, so it goes left to right. And you would need both of those because you can't just have the breaking ball going one direction, especially when you're going to face many lefties, and a lot of the better hitters in the American League are left-handed. Those breaking balls are coming into them.
So I just happen to have this on my desk here. This is an NCAA baseball. This is from the American Athletic Conference, a U of H baseball game. Okay. These seams, I mean, you see them raised. What would major league pitchers do with the ball like this? Would it be?
The funny thing is, when I was in amateur baseball, we used and in high school also, and it was crazy because everybody used the same ball. It was a ball by the company name was Diamond. They're still around.
Yeah.
And it was the model was D1. And the thing was, they were similar to that. They had huge seams. So you loved it because it really helped you get a grip. You could really spin the ball. They were also hard as rocks. So if you ever hit it, the ball would go. They, is with the spin rates and the command that big leaguers have breaking on their breaking balls, the hitters would not have any fun with it. Because if you get a foul ball, you go to the ballpark and you get a foul ball or something like that, it's like you're holding a cue ball. It's like there's no seams at all. There's hardly any rise in those seams, and that's really what the pitcher is looking for. That's when you throw your breaking ball. That's what you're pulling on are those seams.
Yeah, I remember. I think I've referenced it before here on the show when I talked to Verlander in his first rehab start in Sugarland last year. He talked about the baseball. He went on for like 5 or 6 minutes about. And you would see him multiple times get a ball, throw it, get a ball. I keep 3 or 4 balls.
Find the seam.
And
the crazy thing is, you're usually only looking for one seam.
Okay,
it's the seam, whatever your main breaking ball is. How I'm going to hold it. There's usually 2 spots because you just rotate the ball 180 degrees,
right?
And it's in the same position. But if you can't find that seam, that's not good. Throw that one out. Give me another one.
This sounds like a good segment for Mike's Mechanics,
Hey, there you go.
Hey, have to do that. So I remember I tried throwing a screwball growing up, like curveball, and then someone's like, you need to throw a screwball. And so I would put my fingers on this and I would try to throw it out.
Yep. Pronate.
Yeah. And it never worked. It always hit the batter in BP. So I never tried it during the game. Imagine that.
Throwing batting practice and hitting the batter, that's not optimal. That's not really what you're looking for.
Oh no. Let me tell you, I had visions when I would coach. I would always make sure that I found a kid that had a dad that I know could throw BP.
Yeah.
Because I'll get up there and they're like, Coach, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, I'm throwing it at the plate, but you're hugging the plate. So
blame it on him. You did it.
Yeah, dude, I'm a horrible BP pitcher. I'm awful. I'm a good catcher, but that's about it. But, Mike, real quick, we got to mention that our shirts that we're donning tonight are exclusively printed by Mark at Rams Shirts. you need to go to ramshirts.com. Not only does he print our shirts, if you have a business and you need some promotional items, he can help you out. The dude is a one-man wrecking crew over there. He does shirts for us. He does shirts for 790, does shirts for Julia, for Jeff Blum. I mean, he does a lot of really cool stuff for Houston. So go get your shirt right there, the QR code in the corner of our show tab, and then make sure you check out our friend Ever Cruz at State of the Art Barbershop, 1616 South Friendswood Drive. I need to go up there soon and get everything trimmed. What little hair I have on this head of mine. Mike has seen me without a hat. There's a couple people in the world. Yes, it's not as impressive.
So sexy, so sexy.
Oh my gosh. See, this is why I brought him. That's why I brought our forces together. So let's talk about injuries right now, because Luis Garcia, there was some speculation whether or not he would make it to the opening day roster. You, as a former big league pitcher, you know all about the Tommy John surgery and recovery. So I'm just going to kind of go down the list. We have Christian Javier, who underwent Tommy John surgery on June 6th. He's set to return by the end of July, definitely by season's end if there are no setbacks. Do you think, what do you think the chances are that Javier pitches in 2025?
I think they're good. I don't know if they're great, because the Tommy John surgery, they say, okay, that's 13 months, depending on how conservative the doctor is you're talking to, it's somewhere between 12 and 15 months. And, if they're, and the reason there's the stipulation of the extra 3 months is because there may be some setbacks. Right. And maybe it's not a setback. Maybe it's just, you need an extra day here, you need an extra day there during the rehab. And those end up adding up. The question is, okay, let's say he doesn't have any issues. He comes back in 13 months. But who is he? Just because he's healthy and on the mound and pitching doesn't mean he's going to be vintage,
right?
Christian Javier. There may be some growing pains. There may be, control issues just simply because, he is throwing with a new elbow, and things may be, the ball may be coming out a little different. You just never know. You make adjustments when something's hurting. You make adjustments. Or when, I don't know if he was hurting before the Tommy John, but if you do remember, the velocity was down. He was having to pitch a little bit differently than we had seen him in the past. I mean, now he's got to figure out how he's going to attack hitters. I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into it instead of just health. Right. I think there's a pretty good chance that he can, by the end of the season, get some innings in out of the bullpen.
Yeah, just gosh, a healthy Christian Javier, it was just so dominant, Mike. I mean, this guy, unbelievable. Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia returned last season from Tommy John. Then he was shut down last August. So if he's healthy to start the 2025 season, he could make the rotation. But some people are saying that he probably won't be back till May. I'm gonna attack two birds with one stone here. And then Lance McCullers Jr., we know he hasn't pitched since 2022 World Series. Yeah. His status, I mean, he's on the mound right now. He's throwing all this stuff. I see McCullers in the bullpen. Some people are saying they're going to try to throw him straight into a starting position. I don't know that you can do that anymore with as many injuries he's had. What do you think about Garcia? Maybe May, June, and Lance McCullers. What do you think his role is going to be if you had to guess? Like, not saying Mike is the definitive final word, right? McCullers' position.
Yeah, because the first time they asked my opinion, that will be the first time.
Right. Exactly. So where do you see McCullers, bullpen or starting? And do you see Garcia coming back May or before?
All right, we'll start with Garcia. I think there's a chance that Garcia can be, if he's not there by opening day, because you have to remember, pitchers and catchers, they're going to have 7 weeks of spring training prior to this. So we'll get a better idea. And even if you don't get to see him throw, just figuring out when he's throwing. Is he on the same schedule that all the other pitchers are on? And if he is, that looks better and better for opening day. The good thing he's got going through it is he went all the way through his rehab last season. yes, he had the setback in August and he got shut down, but he's had, all of August, September, October, November, December, now he's had a long time to kind of back off, because now he wasn't trying to get back for the 2024 season.
Right.
And he had time to go through, and with him already going through rehab after his Tommy John, it was probably more of a normal off season as far as his throwing program. Once he got, he got healed up from being shut down from the issue he had in August. So I think that there's a chance. One thing we do know about the Houston Astros, they are always ultra conservative with injuries.
100%.
And so I think that, even if unless he just is nails and is great in spring training, he may start out on the IL. But I think that if everything's okay, I mean, a healthy Luis Garcia is a huge addition to this rotation, just simply because what you're going to get if he's healthy.
So if he's healthy and he's full go, do you go with the 6-man rotation? Because if you have someone like him on the rotation, you want to give him that extra day of rest. I mean,
yeah. So they would probably, we talked about it at the beginning about the rotation and all the innings that all the pitchers have had across the board.
True.
More innings than they ever had in their career. Really, the only one that you feel okay with their innings total is really Frommer, because Frommer's done that before.
100%.
He didn't really make a big jump. I think a 6-man rotation makes all the sense in the world if you have the 6 guys to do it. Now, a lot of teams still, you go back, 8-9 years ago, I mean, that was taboo to even say 6-man rotation.
Yeah.
Even teams that went into a 6-man rotation, they never. Oh, it's a spot start. He's not really in the. Yeah, they just wouldn't say it. It was like you're going to get fined if you use that term. Even now, they still don't like the term, but it all depends on off days.
No, and that's what I'm saying. When there's an off day, you can kind of disguise it. If there's
and there's usually a lot of off days early in the season because of weather. You schedule off days in case there's inclement weather. So it's one of those things that off days will have a huge bearing. And you also have to remember, you go back to when I was still playing, we only had 10 off days all season. Okay. Now they actually have 20 now. So
wow.
there's a lot more off days built in there.
Mike's like, hey guys, come on.
I didn't like off days. I liked playing every day.
Oh,
yeah, no. I didn't. That was actually check that. I didn't dislike off days. I usually didn't like the day after an off day because then I would be sore or whatever. So
because you're out surfing and stuff.
No, because I probably pitched, the week prior to the off day, I probably pitched 5 times.
Wow.
And then the off day actually would let my body catch up to the soreness. And there was many days after off days that it would take me a little while to get the bugs and get the little WD-40 in the shoulder to get things moving around again.
Yeah, definitely. So the Astros actually.
Wait, I didn't mention McCullers. You asked
McCullers. Go ahead.
I really don't know. I mean, I have my opinions, but I don't know. I mean, the dude hasn't pitched in 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's great news that he's on the mound and throwing right now. As far as what the stress level between a bullpen and everyone says, I hear that quite a bit. Well, he can't be a starter because he can't handle the workload. Well, what does that mean he's going to be? If he's a long guy that he's going to throw once a week, okay, yeah, that's less stressful. But if you're planning on him and Lance with the breaking ball and the command he has of the breaking ball, if he has got a good release point and he's getting guys out, could there be leverage innings for Lance McCullers? Of course there could.
Right.
So, you being a leverage reliever doesn't necessarily mean the workload is all that much different because, you don't have the pitch count, but you have the frequency of when you're in the game is higher. So it's different, but there's still stress in being a reliever, just like there's stress in being a starter.
Okay. Yeah. I guess for me, and I'm one of those guys. Like, well, gosh, every time he tries to start, he hurts himself. Like, so make him a reliever. But you're right. That's actually a very good point. And I think a couple listeners have agreed with you on that. So you know what? I can stand to learn a thing or two here. You're here on the podcast.
We all can learn, Brett. We all can learn.
That's right. So the Astros did add a prospect. They traded Gray Kessinger.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a kid named, his last name is Linsky. Matthew Linsky. He is out of the Houston area. He actually, where did he went to Humboldt Atascocita, and he was selected out of Rice 16th round in 2023. Last year, 22 appearances, high A ball, 1-1.
Yeah, threw the ball pretty well. Yeah.
2.78 ERA, an average opponent's batting average 180, 14.2 Ks per 9, which is huge when in 32 and 1/3 innings. Now, small sample size, young pitcher,
right?
But who knows? This is a guy. The Astros are really notorious for getting pitchers, and he's 6'7", so he's a big, tall guy,
big dude.
We've got a couple lanky guys,
yeah.
And so this may be one of those diamonds in the rough, And so,
the big guys a lot of times have a little bit, the fact that he's shown swing and miss stuff, the fact that, he came out of high school, pitched in college, was a draft pick, and pitched well in the minor leagues. That's all good. But a lot of times those younger players have, or those taller players, it takes them a little bit longer to kind of figure out where all those arms and legs are going. But hey, he seems to be throwing the ball pretty well. So yeah, that could be an addition, and who knows? I know he was only drafted in 23, but hey, if you're throwing the ball well, especially at the higher levels in the minor leagues, get him up to big league, see what you got.
Definitely. Now, Mike, someone named Sarcastic Parody. Mike was the Iron Man.
I threw in a lot of games. I mean, and I was a little hard headed, but that's not the first time I've been called that. It's pretty cool. I wish that was my walk-up song. That would have been cool.
Iron Man.
Up to Iron Man.
Yeah. That would be cool. You could be Iron Mike Stanton. You and Tyson could, do something.
Yeah, he can have it. I'm not having any. I mean, even at because we're kind of the same age, and
you're not going to.
You know what? You put enough zeros on the back end of a number, I would probably let Mike hit me, but he ain't hit me very many because I'm going down.
Oh no, I would just feel the wind from his glove and I would be out. I'm done. You're out. Okay, I'm done. But yeah, but Mike, we actually put the wrong one up there. I actually changed the background and I kept it up there, and I talked about signing Baby Alvarez, and I know we talked before the show. There's not really a whole lot to know about him, but everybody's calling him Baby Alvarez. Why? Because his name's Alvarez. He's a left-handed hitter. But get this, they say though, this 6'4" kid, they say that his swing is a lot like a combination of Kyle Tucker and Paul O'Neill.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The problem we have with the information that we get, and I say we, I mean all of us, because it's all at our fingertips. Almost anything we talk about, almost any information you get on a broadcast, the regular fan can get it. If they know where to look, they can probably find it.
Right.
What did we say earlier? Expectations are a problem. And, you start putting big expectations just because he's named Alvarez. And we love to do this. And I don't know why, because it does put pressure on a young player. To say you're going to be Paul O'Neill, you're going to be a batting champion. I mean, come on. You're Kyle Tucker, MVP caliber player. Those are high. Why doesn't everybody say, he's going to be Mauricio Dubon? Nothing against Mauricio, because he's been an outstanding Astro. But, I mean, you're not talking about one of the best players in the sport.
Right.
One of the more versatile players in the sport. But do you understand what I'm trying to say? That you just don't, you put these huge expectations on.
I mean, I see it across all sports. We, growing up,
we love to do it. And we being broadcasters and fans, and we love to, who you compare him to? Well, nobody, because he's his own dude.
Especially, I remember we used to watch whenever the Astrodome hosted all the state championships for football. My dad and I would pay $5, go to the Astrodome, watch the 4A, like 3A,
Sure.
4A,
Yeah, that was
5A
cool.
championships. There was a kid from Elsick High School named Khalif Mohammed, and Khalif Mohammed ran like Barry Sanders in high school. And I literally saw this guy. He attacked the right side, got wrapped up by two linemen, spun out of it, went through the left side, broke 2 tackles. The guy broke like 9 tackles on one run.
One play.
He went to Baylor, and this guy was a pinball. And they were like, he's going to be Barry Sanders 2.0, kind of thing. And I think he might have gotten drafted. He didn't really do a whole lot. But that's the thing with putting expectations on these kids. And one of the things I remember, I had a conversation with Craig Reynolds one time because he's a pastor at one of the Second Baptist campuses out there in Kingwood still, I think. And when he was transitioning to that job, I was actually teaching at the school. And his son at the time was in the Cubs organization. And I was talking to him about, of course, Samuel was like an infant. I mean, he was in pre-K. And I was asking, I was like, hey, as I raise my son, like I love baseball. I wanted to play baseball. What advice do you have for me? Like being a baseball dad. He goes, never talk about him being a professional baseball player. Don't ever do it. He goes, let him be the one that mentions it.
Let it be his dream.
Let him chase it. Because if you chase it, he goes, I never once told my son that I wanted. Actually, I didn't even want him playing Major League Baseball because I know how hard it is. I know how tough it is. I know the grind. And, I think he went through the Cubs organization. I don't know if he ever got into the big leagues. He played several years in the minors. He was a good player. He was an above average player.
Yeah.
But he just said, I remember him saying that, don't ever talk to your kids about being a pro because you're setting them up for failure. He goes, just go do the math. Just go look at the probability of your child becoming a major leaguer. It's a losing battle.
Well, I mean, obviously the numbers aren't set in stone, but 1% of high school play. Well, 1% of pre-high school players play high school baseball. 1% of high school players go to college.
Wow.
1% of college goes to the minor leagues. 1% of the minor leagues gets to the big leagues. 1% of the big leagues go to the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So I mean, those aren't real numbers, but you can now if it's his dream that he wants to play, then absolutely you do everything you can to help him, and hopefully it can come to fruition. But you don't want to push those dreams on your young players, on your youngsters.
See, not only do you learn about pitches and raise seams, and do you learn about mechanics, but you learn about parenting your children and not being one of those parents, being a good baseball dad, right, Mike?
You try. I mean, one of the things that my parents, all they did to me is they never pushed me one way. All they told me was whatever you start, you finish. So you're not quitting in the middle of a season. And then do your best. Do your best. Have fun. Do your best. That kind of stuff. So
I love it. Well, hey, man, you know what? We're not quitting this year on the Houston Astros because we are fully committed to the 2025 season. We thank y'all for coming along. Look, we are almost at 1,000 subscribers. We need you to comment.
Come on, we got to push it over the top.
Push it over the top. I'm not going to make the announcement official right now, but I've got another podcast that we will be starting on this same channel, and it will be baseball related. It won't be Astros, but it'll be kind of connected to the Astros. I'll let the mystery remain a mystery. But Mike, thank you so much for all your wisdom, for hanging out with us, and thanks for answering the questions of our viewers. You guys are the real MVPs. I'm H-Town Wellhouse. He's Mike, the world champion Stanton, and we are back to the Bullpen Podcast. We'll see you next time, kids. Have a good one, and go Stros, and
adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat low in the way you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool.